Hi, I'm Lisa Starr, and this is the Natural Time podcast YouTube version. I do it audio only 3 days a week on the major platforms. It's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at erratic hours. And then I like being here on the weekend because I am trying to appeal to some newcomers or beginners to the whole gestalt. And also I just realized I like doing it an extra day a week. Like today I really want to be here because it's kind of crazy enduring the Mayan passages we're in, and so I'm so grateful to be able to share about it and feel heard. So let me start by saying, if you're a beginner, I try to go slow, but there are two major calendars that we follow in the modern Mayan resurrection. We're following the Tzolk'in calendar, and I just have to refer you to one of the introductory videos that's at the very beginning of my channel, chronologically, if you need the basics. But we're following the sacred calendar of the Maya called the Tzolk'in, and it's 260 days long. And so I'll be orienting us where we are within that. There are 20 13-day wave spells that make up the 260 days Tzolk'in. So I talk a lot about which wave spell we're in, because for 13 days, even though we change each day of the calendar to a different, like, Mayan totem or day sign, we also have an overriding theme for 13 days, which is always based on the first day's totem. So right now we're in the red moon wave spell, and it is day 4 of 13. My cat is coughing. That's kind of adorable. We're actually not in it's day 3 of 13. This is the 3rd day of the red moon wave spell. It's called Blue Electric Monkey. And we're also in a calendar, within a calendar of 13 moons, which is the Mayan way of dividing a year. We are in the 11th moon, day 18. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And we'll find a way for it to all be clear and coherent somehow. Although that's not the time of year we're in. We're in a time of year when things are fairly chaotic and discombobulated, which is why I'm so happy to be here. So let's start with the red moon wave spell. It is the 3rd day, and so it began with the red magnetic moon, and then yesterday was white lunar dog. Yesterday was a portal day, and so there was some higher energy or frequency or intensity to it based on celebrating the polarity of love and the challenge of love, because white dog is about loving loyally, like dogs do, with our whole hearts, heart-centered way of being. Love is heart-centered, but there's no other day in the calendar that is about love except white dog. And so yesterday was white dog, and it was lunar. The 2nd day, or the 2nd of 13, is always lunar, and it's about polarity, the way the moon is gradations of shadow and light. So we look at the world at the beginning of the wave spell through this kind of austere polarity or division, like, this is my challenge. This is, what isn't challenging. It's just like, I see the problems, and like half my life feels like a big problem and the other half of my life doesn't, but I have to focus on the problem because that's sort of how it always is. If there's something uncomfortable, we tend to focus on that. It's not that we're a fully glass half empty species, but we have cognition about why things aren't right, and we have this incredible drive developmentally, in terms of evolution, to solve problems. So when we're doing the Mayan count, we are shown, like, this is a difficult, shadowy part of our experience. This part is sunlight, and we have to work forward from there, integrating or resolving the part that feels difficult. A challenge in this count or this spiritual culture is something to grow toward and beyond. It's not the end of, the journey, like, well, it was too challenging, so I didn't do it. It's like, okay, this is the challenge, and we're all like world-class mountain climbers or Ironman athletes. Like, this is a challenge, and let's go. And we're going to be carried by a lot of divine influence, because this is a spiritual path. So it's all about connecting with a place that divinity lives for you, either in your heart or in your concept of, I feel it like a vibration, like, oh, it's up in my crown chakra, and it comes pouring into my body when I connect to it. So what's happening today in our 13-day count of red moon is that we are connecting to the divine realm. That always happens on the 3rd of 13. The first is like attracting our purpose for 13 days or 13 moons, 13 years sometimes. The second is for seeing what's difficult or identifying a challenge. And the third day is for asking, how can I best be of service? That's today, the electric day or the electric tone. So I'm mentioning that just because it helps. It helps to identify that this path is oriented toward growth, being awake to growth, not avoiding it, not sleeping through it, not escaping with like being high, honestly, all the different ways to be high. It's about engagement, and there's a path in sort of presented to us, and we follow it, and along the way we encounter the challenge, but then we also encounter help from the divine world, which is happening right now. And when we are given that greater, what they call it, higher power infusion of something greater than ourselves, that's otherworldly or heavenly, suddenly we have something to give others. Basically like an electric current that we connect to is then available for us to give to someone else. So when the question for the third tone or the third day of 13 asks, how can I best be of service? It's a reminder that this is a spiritual path that includes being dedicated to others than ourselves. And it doesn't have to be other humans. It just can be a way of being that is helping someone, some entity, some animal, some blade of grass. But we are focused really early on in each cycle on learning the answer to the question, because it's not like we have to come up with the question and go around going, how can I best be of service? Hey, how can I best be of service? Instead, we just go, oh, this is the day, the electric day. How can I best be of service? We open the question mark lives in how we begin our day and move through it, and we'll get an answer. And you can always lie around at the end of the day reflectively and be like, oh, how can I best be of service? That's how, there it was. Or it was just what you did that day. Let me think about my day. Well, I'm podcasting, and I felt very pulled to, it's pretty mundane. It's a mundane day, and I'm not going to make you like walk alongside my mundane activities, but I can say that, some of them illustrated being of service. And, I hit a wall. I came up to my sort of recording area from the rest of my household because I felt like I am a classic mom with too much pulling at me and people needing this and that, including pets. And I just was sort of internally like, I have nothing left to give. Let me go and do my thing. My thing is this, which is still a gift, honestly. It's something pointed outward. And I think the difference is sometimes in our everyday activities, we can't necessarily be reminded or point to the absolute need to click into that divine realm or higher power and let a lot of our actions and choices be motivated by channeling divinity or God or godliness or the spiritual presence of something. So again, I'm getting into the minutia because that's one way of breaking things down a bit. Like, I think that's a convoluted way to explain to you that if you struggle in your lives and you're still following this calendar as part of how you heal or orient yourself just in an everyday way, when you come to struggle, I think it's really helpful to just simplify and limit your perception about it to the day or the part of the day that you're in. I've been in recovery a long time, and we do have that phrase, one day at a time. And pretty early on, I switched it. I understood that I could integrate like one day at a time, which is sort of like don't drink or use or overeat or spend too much or date the wrong person for one day at a time, to, when days feel like they're just going off the rails, let me just stay with what today is. That's the Mayan transition to the calendars I follow, is like, well, what is today? Okay, well, that's what today is, and I'm going to just kind of get through today, and then tomorrow's a new day. So it's not just one day at a time for me, but it's like, I'm going to deal with this day, and then I'm going to go to sleep, and maybe tomorrow will be different. And the phrase that I kind of connect to is like, every day is different, which is true. That's what I mean about the calendar. Every day is a different quality. Today is Blue Monkey. You may not be listening on Blue Monkey, but this is also a kind of tricky juncture where we go from Blue Monkey today to Yellow Human tomorrow to Red Skywalker the day after. And I think those are all tricky days for those of us with sensitivities. Today is the day of the child. Blue Monkey represents the child self, and a lot of us had difficult childhoods. So part of being in a Blue Monkey day is feeling our old child self have some play, or feeling it come into play, and being possibly caught in old woundology or acting immature and being childish. And there's lots of wonder to a Blue Monkey day, and there's magic all interlaced through that childlike gaze at the world or experience. But we can lack complexity, we can lack maturity, we can lack focus on a Blue Monkey day. And I'm finding today in my own life, just like, that's why I don't have anything to give. I'm back in my old material. I don't feel very adult. As a child, I was super taxed and stressed. I feel some of that reverb now. I am doing what I did as a child, which is receding to a kind of hideout. I used to read books all the time. Now I'm going to talk to you. Tomorrow is Yellow Human. Yellow Human is challenging because even though we're all human beings, I think, listening, very few of us are Yellow Human on the astrology of our birthday. But to be a Yellow Human or pass through Yellow Human while we make this 20-day cycle through the Mayan sacred totems is to come to terms with some of the best and worst parts of a human incarnation, which is that we are brilliant. We are brilliant animals. We have such high cognition, and we have all these ways, again, of, I guess every animal that's out there has ways that are highly intelligent and refined of coping and surviving. That's evolution. All that's left are those who do survive. But humans are, I guess we're pretty good at solving some of the problems that we have. We're great at creating problems for a bunch of other species. But we also, I don't know, we just have really high brain function for a bunch of the things that we need to resolve in order to still be here. So I think that's a cool part of Yellow Human, but Yellow Human is less embodied than lots of other animals and plants. So when in a Yellow Human day, we can be really high up in our heads and less in our hearts. And so there can be ego activity, which we kind of criticize, rightly so, like, oh, we're driven by ego, which is a kind of high functioning reptilian mind. Like, the reptilian mind is really instinctual and is not, thinking about big picture solutions, but more immediate solutions with such high intensity. And so Yellow Human is looking to put all the, juggle all the balls in the air and put all the pieces together to create solutions that maybe bleed out into a bunch of different directions and situations. So that's what I mean about a lot of layered brain functioning, but a lot of overwork or over fixation in our upper body. so we don't feel as much. And then red skywalker, just to kind of set you up for the next couple of days, I find tricky because it is basically the Mayan day sign for getting high. And that really has a shadow energy of addiction, and it's one of the things that yellow humans do. It's kind of a nice progression, right? Because we go from our like child self, blue monkey, to our incarnation as a human to red skywalker, which is one of the next reflexive ways humans try to calm their brain down, by shutting their brain down and being, tripped out in some way or another. Red skywalker is the description of being out of body, walking in the sky. So this is like a 3-day breakdown, just because the surrounding time we're in, whether it's the red moon wave spell or the spectral moon, where we are in the 13 moon year, is close to the end, the 11th of 13. And this moon is always the spectral tone, and the moon is about a breaking wave. And we're just really in the heart of a wave that's breaking, crashing. That's what that means. It's a crashing wave time over a 28-day period, and it's really intensifying right now. And I feel it. I feel discombobulated, whether it's disrupted sleep or losing confidence. I think confidence is really can mirror stability. I feel confident because I understand the accomplishment I've just done. I'm confident because I know where I am and I've been here before. I'm confident because I trust the people I'm with, and I trust myself and how I'm behaving around them. Like, those are kind of stable moments that build confidence, or confidence can come out freely. When things become unstable, like a crashing wave, I think that there isn't really room for some of the luxury feelings like confident. Instead, it's sort of like fear and questions of safety. I'm discombobulated. I need to make sure that I'm okay, I'm safe. And so rather than going to the next level of peace, which is like, oh, I feel tranquility, I don't even think that's possible right now, other than a really mature Zen mind. Like, as we think of a breaking wave, or a surfer who's been in a tube, right? A tightening tube of some big wave and some beautiful surfboard moment. And then the wave is tightening so much that they are just like launched into the white water, and they spill and tumble in that froth back to the shore or to the surface. And when we watch those surf wave movies, it can be like terrifying how long they're under, or how much they want to avoid those crashes because the waves are so big that the spillage will be so great. If we're in the annual, meaning every 13 moons, we have a moon where a wave breaks for 28 days, such as we are now, consider that a big wave, big surf. And we're in that spillage. And so I think instead of being confident, we can be calm within a kind of surge or storm. And, I think that there's a lot of emotionality connected to that. When you're fighting fear, or fighting, it could be fear within you, or it could be fear without, like fear within you, or fear around you. And when you're fighting it, when you're trying to stay calm, I think it can just make you feel shook up. And if you calm down, some of the first things that you notice are that you feel emotional. And that's how I feel. But the other facet of right now is that we are in the red moon wave spell. And please tune in during the week if you want more details about it, because I tend to kind of overshare, overspill about each of the wave spells that we pass through. But red moon is like crying because it's a reminder that our body is fully liquid, like some huge percentage, and we rely on fluidity to make our bloodstream and our lymph and salivary glands, etc. Like, it's so obvious that we have all these like liquids in us and spilling out of us. But I just feel like when you cry, you connect almost to the vulnerability that you feel as being a watery being. instead of like, oh yeah, no, I'm all like sinew, I'm not spirit, I am matter. Well, we are matter, but we're highly like oceanic matter. We're more like the ocean than a granite mountain. And so we are tidal and affected by different gravitational forces, including other people. You know, when we get around other people, some parts of our fluidity and sensitivity change. So there's so many layers of motion and circularity, and how our body's fluidity travels in our waking day. And so red moon is all about the reminder of that. Other things that happen in the red moon time that are really incidental is that you might want to clean everything. I mean, it's kind of spring, so you might be spring cleaning, but red moon really supports not just using water to clean, but just wanting things purified. It also supports wanting to purify our bodies. It supports wanting to be connected to our own bodies and out of our heads. So it's good that the wave break of the spectral moon means that we are kind of launched right now into instability. If we come home to ourselves right now, it should just be with kindness and patience, because we're not at our most functional, and the human, like the description that we kind of all agreed on about human productivity and maybe earning potential and not being insane. You got to be sane. You got to earn money. You got to be, I don't know, cool. Right now, I just think that there's a lot more vulnerability driving us. And yeah, well, it's kind of melancholic. I'm in the middle of it. And if you are not, then I'm glad. But I tend to make sure that my message gets to the people that might be suffering the most. I am not suffering the most per my spectrum right now, but I feel kind of like the itchy, scratchy stuff that could become pitfalls. I'm like, I recognize this. It could lead to despair, total dysfunctional crisis level grief, or melancholy. Like, I've had all those experiences, but right now it's just more of like, oh, the scent of some of those intense and feeling spaces. That's red moon to me. And what we want to do is kind of hang together. It's not necessarily going to be you and me, but you and your friendship circle, or the power players of those who you feel really supported by and can support in return, and just kind of holding together, because there's something going on. It's nuanced, but it's also really powerful, that can make us feel like basically really premenstrual. And some of us are menopausal and some of us are men, and that's not literal, but it's that, I don't know what's going on, but I just can't take it anymore. I want to cry. Like, that is red moon to me on a real, like, everyday vernacular. So I'm Lisa Starr. I am another yourself, and in Mayan we say, in Lakesh.